There's a phrase I've always come back to over and over the last 15 years in my music career. You only lose if you quit. It sounds simple. It almost sounds too simple. But after working with thousands of producers, I've become convinced that there is full truth to this. Because most artists don't fail because they lack the talent. They don't fail because they started too late. And they definitely don't fail because they don't have the right plugins or the right connections, the right opportunities. Most artists fail because of one of the inevitable battles force them to quit. Rejection, comparison, perfectionism, self-doubt, burnout. These are the battles that actually end careers. And today I really want to discuss these 5 stages, these 5 battles, because if you've survived them, you're probably doing way better than you think. And more important than all, it means you're still in the game, you haven't quit, and you're still on your way to winning. Sign number 1, rejection no longer defines you. When you're new to music, rejection feels personal. A label says no, promoter ignores your message, a playlister doesn't respond, a collaborator left you on red. I'm sure this has happened at least once to everyone watching this. And every one of those moments feels like more evidence that you're just not good enough. Maybe you're not talented enough. Maybe you're just wasting your time. But eventually something changes. You start realizing that rejection isn't a verdict. It's just part of the process. You discover that all tracks, some of the greatest tracks, have been rejected. Some of the most talented artists have been overlooked. And yes, sometimes the people that we think are all knowing, they get the decisions wrong. Now, I just did this talk at Harvard a couple of months ago with this artist named James Hype, and his biggest hit is a song called Ferrari. This song was rejected over and over and over. He could have quit, he could have given up, but instead, he didn't let that rejection force him out. He eventually got the record signed, put out, and now has 1 billion streams. Because every rejection only has 2 outcomes. It can make you quit, or it can make you better. And if you're sitting here right now watching this, we already know which one you chose. So for every rejection you get from a label, from someone that you want to work with, from a promoter, that's a place to learn, level up, and eventually that rejection will turn into a win. Sign number 2, you stop comparing yourself to everyone and everything around you. Comparison is one of the most destructive habits in music, because no matter where you are, there's always going to be someone ahead of you. There's someone younger, there's someone growing faster, there's someone who has this better connection. And social media makes this impossible to avoid. Every day you're just exposed to like the best moments in someone's career. Sure, it looks like it's happening every day, but you're only seeing the best moments. You see none of the struggles. You don't see the years where no one cared about this person, the hundreds of tracks that went nowhere, and the moments where they wanted to quit because, as you know, social media, people just post the highlights. Eventually, mature artists realize something. Comparison creates a game that you will never win because there's no finish line. No matter how successful you become, there's always going to be someone you look at that you think is doing better. You must stop asking yourself, how do I compare to this artist? And just start asking, how do I compare to myself 6 months ago? Because that's a question you can actually control. And once your focus returns fully to your own path, that's really when progress accelerates. Eventually, you realize the goal was not to beat everybody else or sound like everybody else. The goal is just staying in the game long enough to become the artist you're capable of being. Sign number 3, perfectionism hasn't destroyed your life yet. This one is sneaky because perfectionism often disguises itself as professionalism. It sounds reasonable, right? It sounds ambitious. I'm just trying to make things perfect. But in reality, perfectionism is sometimes fear. You're afraid that if it's not perfect, you're going to be criticized or judged. You're afraid of releasing something that is not a perfect product. So instead of finishing the track, you tweak it endlessly. You revise and improve and revise some more. And months later, it's still burning a hole in your hard drive. Meanwhile, someone else has put out 10 records. They get feedback and they improve and they put out 10 more. All of that passes you up if you're stuck in the grips of perfectionism. The artists who succeed, they understand something very important. Finished beats perfect every time, because progress comes from repetition. And the goal is not to lower your standards. The goal is to stop allowing perfectionism to prevent the growth. And once you start learning this skill of just finishing, you will overcome a battle that I've seen trap endless amounts of producers. The artists who wait for perfection, they disappear. And once you understand that, you're going to stop asking, is it perfect? And you'll start asking yourself, is this finished? Before we continue, if you are serious about building a career in music and want mentorship directly from us, we have helped artists sign to the biggest labels like Defected, Monstercat, Anjuna, Spinnin. We've had 12 students play EDC in just the last 3 years. You can apply to our premium program at Cosmic Academy. We help the artists not only just improve in their music, but all the stuff too that is mindset and decision-making and efficiency and brand. I'll leave a link below in the comments to apply. Now let's continue. Sign number 4, self-doubt no longer controls your decisions. This may be the most universal battle in all of music, because at some point, every artist asks himself the same questions. Maybe I'm just not talented enough. Maybe I'm too old, right? Maybe this person has something that I don't. And quite literally, maybe this just isn't going to work for me. I have heard some version of this from every artist you can think of. The biggest artists in the world, everyone deals with self-doubt. Self-doubt will not disappear when you get big or successful. The difference is that experienced artists, successful ones, stop treating self-doubt as some truth. This is not some universal fact. No, this is just a feeling. This is not carved in stone. This is not the truth of it. They understand that confidence is not something you're born with. It's something you build record by record, release by release, and of course it takes time. Eventually, you realize something very powerful though. That voice in your head that is predicting failure, giving you all this self-doubt, you say to yourself, why should I trust that anymore? You've seen success, you've seen great records, and then you've also seen that you can move towards progress, even though you have some uncertainty. This is probably one of the hardest psychological battles in all of music, right? Self-doubt has ended so many careers. And it's not because the doubt goes away, but because those people stop believing in it. Sign number 5, burnout hasn't ended your journey. This is one that I think breaks so many artists because burnout is consistent everywhere. And it doesn't just pop up. Burnout slowly arrives quietly. One day you're just a little bit more tired, and then a little bit more, and then excitement starts to fade. And then you notice your inspiration is starting to disappear, and opening the DAW feels like more work. And that excitement, that love that you first had, it's starting to feel heavy. And I'm gonna be real with y'all, for a lot of folks, that's where the journey ends. Those artists, they slowly drift away. Not because they lack the talent, they were probably very good. Not because they lacked potential, maybe they were right about to make it, but because that energy just started to dissipate. If you're watching this, there's a good chance you've already made it through one of those periods. Maybe you stepped away for a little, maybe you questioned everything, but eventually you came back. And that right there is the difference. Because artists who ultimately succeed, they're not always the most talented, the best, the most brilliant sound designers. They're often the ones that survive those burnout moments that convince most people to stop. There will be days where no one's listening, days when the releases don't perform, and periods where you are exhausted and frustrated and you don't want to open the DAW. And then it starts to attack your willingness to do the thing. And then you ask yourself this very simple question, are we done? And every time you come back and say, the answer is no, we're not done. And then you're still here, and then you build more strength. And then you learn more, you start creating more, you gain more inspiration. Maybe there's some more burnout after that. And it comes back and it says, are we done? And you say, not this time. And you learn more, you get inspired more, and it keeps happening. And then as it does, you're like, oh, this is just part of it. And I think it's like anything else. Look, I'm really into going to the gym, and maybe you're into exercise as well. There are just some days where I don't want to go. There are just some days where I'm like, I'm burnt out, I'm tired, I'm achy, I'm 40 years old, I don't want to do this, but we're going to just do it. And then you show up and you make it through a workout and you're like, that was all right. That wasn't so bad. This is true of really any pursuit. There's going to be days, moments, weeks where you feel like you got to take a step back. And maybe sometimes you do, but you only lose if you quit, right? As long as you come back, it's totally fine to take a breather, take that rest, take that week, take whatever you need, but don't quit. If you've recognized any of these 5 stages inside of yourself, leave a comment below on any of the ones that you've struggled with. Maybe it'll give some advice to some of the other people watching this on how you made it through these battles. Now, if you're curious about more topics, you want to learn more about the specifics of different parts of production or specific parts of the branding, we have hundreds of videos like that on this channel. I'm going to have the algorithm suggest the exact right one for you to watch next. We'll see you in there.